It's this whole idea that we tell everybody to ask for help when they need it, but we behave in a way that shows the world that it's best if you don't need help.
Hey there, welcome to Unboxing It, a podcast by Laura Wellman and me, Rowan Knox. Each week we tackle societal ideas and expectations that can stop us from leading full and authentic lives. We're so glad you're joining us. Let's get started. Welcome back to Unboxing It. My name is Rowan.
And I'm Lara.
And it's been a minute, hasn't it?
A few minutes, maybe even.
What were we saying? It's been like 2 months.
Yeah, we decided at the end of May to take June off, and now it is halfway through August. So
that's what happens. And I mean, a lot of that was because of me and my wild life as a coffee shop owner. There's been a lot going on, Some of it we're going to talk about today, but I'm so happy to have the space to do this again because I really miss chatting with you and I really miss sending these out into the world.
Yeah, me too. I think, having these conversations is important for the world to hear, but it's also just really good for us to get to do this and to have these conversations and to process our own stuff. So multi-purposed.
Fun story. We actually were going to record this a few days ago, and we got on a call with each other, and 2 hours later had not hit the record button. I think we maybe missed each other a little bit.
A little bit. We needed a little bit of a catch up and knowing a bit more about each other's lives than what we see on social media, which is a nice glimpse, but not the full picture.
That's right. It helped us come up with a bunch of new topics to bring to you all in the next little while. And speaking of the next little while, because things have been a little harried in both our lives, especially mine, we are going to keep this at every other week for a release for now. And then we'll see where we get to in a little while. But for now, expect a new episode every 2 weeks.
Because we're back.
We're back, baby. And today we are talking about something that's really near and dear to my heart right now. Although weirdly, I'm not the one who thought of this episode topic. We're going to talk about asking for help. And I want to start by telling a little story. And then I have another story that is more recent to talk about in a little bit. That is what got us thinking about this episode and the topic. When I was a teenager, my now ex-wife, but we'd been together since we were teens. We were together for over 30 years. My ex and I were both going to school. And when she was in class, she was going to college, and she met a woman who was in her early 40s. And my ex was taking computer courses. So this was the mid 90s, I guess, at that point. People still were not really up to speed on computers. So she was taking this completely out of interest, this woman in her 40s, and asked my wife to tutor her. So they became friends. And lo and behold, it turned out that her husband was a diplomat. We had no idea. And the long and short of it is that this was at the time when the province of Ontario was really cutting back on funding in terms of social assistance. And my partner and I were both on social assistance while we went to school because we were going to school full time. It was a recession. It was really hard to find jobs. We were still looking, but we needed that money to live. And they cut a whole bunch of that programming. And when the news came out that they cut it, at that point, this woman was now living in a different country with her husband. They relocated for work, obviously, as a diplomat. And she emailed us and said, I'm not going to let you struggle like this. I want to help. I now have a job in computers and I make money that I don't need. So I'm going to send half of it to you every single month. It's going to be an e-transfer. Was it an e-transfer? It might have been an
Probably
e-transfer.
not, but it was
No,
something.
it was a check. It was a check. I forgot checks exist. But anyway, she sent us a check every single month. And she said, if you don't accept the check, if you don't cash it, I'm going to find a way to directly transfer it to you. So she would not let us say no. And she honestly paid for our rent and food for a good 3 years.
Wow.
We were able to get through school. At that point, again, as a trans man, I have given birth 3 times. At that time, I ended up pregnant and we decided to keep the baby, who is now 29 years old, if you can believe it, and a wonderful human being. But when she found out that we were going to have a baby, she said, I'm happy for you. This is great. Really want to keep supporting you. My husband and I never had children. We never wanted them, but we really love this for you. And so please let us help. And they helped us with some of our baby needs. And my partner, I know I keep saying my wife, so people are probably like, how did you have a wife and end up pregnant? So, backstory here is just that my wife and I are both trans. So, at the time, I was presenting as a woman, she was presenting as a man. So, this is how a little oopsie pregnancy happened back then. And so, anyway, my wife ended up getting a job and it didn't pay much. So, this woman and her husband were like, that's okay. What we're going to do is we're just going to slowly decrease the amount that we give you over time. This was a really hard thing for me to accept, by the way, and also my partner. We both had a really difficult time with this. It really felt like we were getting this handout and that we didn't deserve it. It wasn't fair that all these other people were struggling. And why did we get that and nobody else got it? And it just didn't feel right. I was really raised to not accept help like that. So we did because it really helped our child too. And I swear it's because of this amazing couple who I reconnected with several years later. It's because of them that we were able to dig ourselves out of poverty. I really believe that as 2 young parents with a child, we were able to stay in school. We were able to eventually buy a house. They didn't help us pay for the house, but just kind of save up. We were able to do all these things because we weren't living hand to mouth constantly. And I think about them often because she would not let me thank her. I kept trying to thank her. And she was very strict about it. She's like, you don't thank me. And she told me a story, and I won't go into big detail about it because it's her story to tell, but she was young and in really dire straits, and a complete stranger helped her by letting her live with him and just out of the kindness of his heart helped her go to school. He never had children either, and he really liked her. And he paid for her to go to school. There was no creepy stuff going on. It genuinely was just out of the goodness of his heart. She ended up getting out of poverty because of him. And when she tried to thank him, he said, no, no, just do the same thing for somebody else. Pay it forward, essentially, before pay it forward was a thing we said. And that's what she told us. She said, pay it forward. So I feel like the last many years of my life, I have been working hard towards paying it forward. So asking for help and receiving help are very difficult things for a lot of us. But if we don't ask for help or we don't receive the help, even when we don't ask for it and somebody offers it, are we really living our best lives?
Yeah, I think this touches on so many things. One is you shouldn't need help. And
Mm,
this is something I think I've talked about on the podcast before. It's something I talked about in my book, but it's this whole idea that we tell everybody to ask for help when they need it, but we behave in a way that shows the world that it's best if you don't need help. Right? So you're like, you should ask for help. If you need help, ask me, ask me, ask me. And then we'll be like, isn't it great? John over here never needed a single person to help him to reach all
mm,
this success. You're like, do you see how these two things you're saying aren't working together? And it's what reinforces it's better if I don't ask for help. If I ask for help, it means that I am not good enough to insert whatever. And that's simply not true. And there are people who want to help. In fact, I think you and I both are people who actively want to help a lot of the time. And it's difficult. Well, it's one of those like be quiet kind of moments when it gets turned around at you and be like, if you like to give help, why wouldn't other people like to help? And you're like, shut up.
Stop making sense.
Yeah, like, oh, but do you think the people you're helping are weak? I'm like, again, be quiet. I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, it's so funny how we live with both of those simultaneously. A lot of us love to help other people, and we will do it without a second thought. If we have it, we will give it. I definitely am one of those people. I think I've always been one of those people, but it's only gotten stronger the older I get and the more I see how fortunate I am in many ways. It's not a guilt thing. I'm not trying to, I don't want to use the term boomer this, but I don't want to be one of those people like, I worked hard for everything that I have. That's not what I'm trying to say. Like, I know that I worked hard, and I think everyone deserves safety and shelter and food. And I'm one of those people who does deserve those things. We all do. But there are people who, for many reasons, including, lacking certain privileges, lacking resources, lacking communication with the right people, they can't find the right help. There's so many different reasons, system failures, that people are not where they frankly deserve to be, which is in safety. So I'm always really big on helping other people. But I have now gotten into that mindset at almost 50 years old that I received all the help that I needed, right? That was back then. Look how much help I got. All of my received help quota was filled up before I was like 22 years old, right? In my opinion. I think subconsciously I carried that. So I should not be asking for help, because if I ask for help now, well, then I'm a failure, because look at all the help I already got. And if that wasn't enough, what's wrong with me? So that leads me into the second story. I promise Lara will have a lot more to say when I am done telling stories. And we plan this. I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to just keep talking as like the guy in the conversation, but these two stories are important to the overall topic. So my partner, Danny, and I, we run a coffee shop. The coffee shop just turned 6 months old. And Understory has been, I would say, beloved by a lot of people around the
Mm-hmm.
world, because it isn't just a coffee shop and wine bar. Like, it's a community space in so many ways. And we do a lot to help as many people as we can. We have a pay it forward program. We do a lot of community stuff. We do a lot of fundraising. And we had a pretty successful Pride weekend, and Pride was a big part of why we took June off. So I could really focus on our first Pride in the middle of the village in Toronto. So we knew it was going to be wild, and it was. And then we got hit by this huge heat wave right after. And on Canada Day, July 1st, our AC broke. And when I say broke, I mean, it turns out the AC is, it's going to sound weird when I say this, but it's on the roof, but there are apartments above us and there are patios, like there's sort of a walkway and stuff. And they have to shovel that walkway over the winter. They have to salt it and shovel it so people can get in and out of their apartments. And I guess over time, a whole bunch of salt has been shoveled into our existing unit, the one that came with the space.
And
And
just to be
in,
clear, the AC is the air conditioning. I
yeah,
know not everybody has air
it's true.
conditioning everywhere in the
Air
same
conditioning.
way. So
Yeah,
just,
that's right. Some people call it an air con, which sounds to me like, I don't know, doesn't that sound like a little Top Gun to you? Air con.
yeah, I was thinking a plane. I don't
Yeah,
know why.
exactly. Exactly. Air con. So our AC just, it died. They managed to kickstart it a couple of times, but it just, they're like, you need to replace it. It's dead. It's not keeping up. And it wasn't keeping up. It was still hot in there. We had to rent another unit, this giant loud unit, and it was blowing. It was like living inside the shop, inside this quiet coffee shop, and it was so loud we had to yell over it, and it was blowing air and barely doing anything, and it was extremely stressful. And when we found out we had to replace it, they said, yeah, like ballpark $10,000. And I went into the back room and I cried. And let me tell you, with testosterone, how much harder it is to cry. Oh, I cried. I cried. And then my barista came in and gave me a hug, and one of our regulars gave me a hug. And it was just like, it just felt so bad for me. And I shared about this on our social media, on my personal social media. And at the same time, I was getting all this dental work done that I was in the middle of getting, that we were paying for, obviously, but like, as much as actually it was more than the AC, right? And like, that's not something I could put off. It had to get done. And it was a really stressful early July. So people were saying, Rowan, why don't you put up a GoFundMe? Why don't you guys put up a GoFundMe? And I was like, absolutely not. No, because again, I had my help quota, everybody. People had already given me thousands of dollars. I'm not doing that again. And Danny was taught the same things that I was, where it's just like, you don't ask for a handout. You just figure it out. You just tough it out and you figure it out. So she was completely against it too. It got bad enough though. The ceiling started leaking at the same time, and we had to have that opened up, and they were trying to fix that. And that's all the landlord's issue, but we have to pay for the actual repairs, like the cosmetic stuff afterwards, and take stuff off our ceiling. It's a lot. It's a lot. One of our lights got damaged. So all this is happening at the same time. And finally, I turned to Danny. I said, Danny, I think we need to ask for help. And she just took a deep breath and said, I think you're right. Okay, but I need you to do it, Rowan. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put up a GoFundMe. So I put up a GoFundMe, and it was very hard to do. And within an hour, I set the goal at $10,000, by the way. Within an hour, we were at $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
People all over the world were like, thank you. Thank you for letting us help. So I forgot to hit a button on GoFundMe. There's a button that just keeps increasing your amount so people can keep giving you money. So it went from like 10,000 to like, I don't know what the next thing was, maybe 14 or 18 or whatever. So people just kept giving. But in the actual description, I was like, we are asking for $10,000. And in my mind, I was like, even if we raise 2 or 3,000, that's going to help a lot, right? So now we had 10,000. I was like, whoa, 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 everybody, you can stop. You can stop. And they're like, don't you turn that off. You just let us go. I realized I forgot to hit the button in the morning when I woke up and there's $23,000 raised. So that's when I panicked. And I was like, everyone's going to think I'm the biggest scammer in the world. So I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, you leave that alone. I said, okay. It was very hard for me to do again, but I was like, I'm going to give it 24 hours, and whatever we raise in 24 hours, even if it's not another penny, it's going to be more than enough. By 24 hours, when I shut it off, we had raised over $38,000, which meant when the AC unit did not arrive and we had to get another AC unit, thankfully we didn't pay for the first one, that involved extra electrical work. That was $4,000. And so we had to pay $14,000. We could pay it. We can fix our ceiling. We were able to pay our staff. We were always going to pay our staff for the time that we were shut down, because we were shut down for a few days, but we were also able to pay them what they would have made in tips as well, not just their base salary, their base hourly wage. And we were able to put some money away for the next time something happens. This is all thanks to people insisting that we ask for help. So that is my good news story about that really wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think before I share a few of my other thoughts on that, one thing is that if you have never been a small business owner, you may not realize that even when a business is looking very successful, and even if it is very successful, that does not mean they are flush with cash, right? Like the idea that something is working well does not mean what some people think it means, right? It's not, oh, wow, Danny and Rowan, they're like rolling in money now. Like, not how that works. And so, not that I think everybody thinks that, but I just think it's an important thing to say, right? There's not huge profit margins, and having really big unexpected expenses is the kind of thing that can break things completely.
Yeah, especially early on, right? We were not even 6 months old. So we're still paying back our loans. We're still climbing out of our personal debt. We're still like buying things actively for the business, like stocking up on stuff or making big purchases that we need to keep growing the business. So it's not like we have a ton of cash in the bank just waiting to go in case something went.
Yeah, and your dental is another good example of how small business owners don't have health insurance the way that many people do. Obviously, not everybody. There's a lot of people who don't have insurance, but
Mhm.
there are also a lot of people who do, right? So that's another thing that isn't covered. So, all that to say, there was a true need and people wanted to help. When the GoFundMe started surpassing the first goal, and it did. I mean, I read it. It said $10,000 is the goal. Everybody could see that you had surpassed the goal, right? It's not like people
Yeah.
were like, oh, I didn't know you hadn't reached the goal yet. It said $10,000, and people were like, no, we want to keep helping. We want to help you succeed. And very much, your GoFundMe said this is to help pay our staff. It's not just to help pay with the air conditioning. We really want to do this and make sure that our staff aren't going unpaid. And I think that's commendable. And so, as much as you wanted to help your staff by continuing to pay them, people wanted to help you be able to continue doing that. And it's a hard thing to accept, and yet it's a nice thing to let people do for you. And that's part of what this conversation is about. It's about the fact that it's not weak to ask for help. But even like you said, people said, go do a GoFundMe. This is not just asking for help, it's allowing people to give you the help that they have said they want to give you. And letting that happen can be difficult, but it's good. It's important. It's part of society helping one another. And just like you and I like to help other people like to help us.
Yeah, I had largely just sort of made peace with it after a little bit. Unfortunately, there was somebody else who had a really hard time with the fact that we asked for help. Weirdly, a fellow trans man online. I'm not going to name him. I'm sure if you went through my socials somewhere, you would probably find him. He very much doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on what he said. So he firmly believes this. But he's a little bit younger than me. And he kind of went, he said, like, next time try to raise the money yourself, you'll feel better. And I was like, this is just shitty thing to say, right? People wanted to help, all the things. I said all the things. And when he got back to me, he didn't just tell me that he thought I was a mooch and a scammer and all those other things. I guess I'm paraphrasing. He didn't exactly say those words, so I don't want to put words in his mouth. But he also got super transphobic with me. And again, I want to tell you, he's a trans man and I'm not a bot. This is a real person, by the way, who's been online for a long time. So, like, an actual human being who is a trans man, a fellow trans man, told me my beard looked bad. I'm just a woman, like, just went off on me. It was really disgusting behavior, which I did call out, and I rarely do that. But I was like, I think people need to know that this guy gets really transphobic with other trans people. And then he guessed, like, I blocked him, but other people were telling me that he just kept going on his own feed about getting handouts and how shitty that is and how he never needed to ask for anything and he's done everything on his own. And there's definitely a wound there. I must have just hit something with my story. Funny story is he's in the coffee business as well. So is there jealousy there? I don't know. I have no idea. Last time somebody actually looked into him to see if he was still going off about this stuff, because this wasn't that long ago. He wasn't, which is great, but his parents bought him an industrial coffee roaster, which is worth thousands and thousands of dollars. And they told me this. They told me that, by the way, this is kind of funny, right? I didn't actually think it was funny. I just thought, I was like, oh, I really thought about the beliefs, the things we tell ourselves, right? So I guess it's okay if your parents buy you things. And weirdly, my parents, they don't buy me things. I think since I moved out at 16, I have maybe borrowed $40 off of them. I'm not kidding. Like, my parents give me gifts and stuff for sure, and I give them gifts, but I've never borrowed money from my parents. And yet, it's okay to get money from your parents or help from your parents, but it's not okay to ask for help from strangers. And these are the convoluted messages. I think the loops that we get ourselves into, we get stuck, right? Like, it's not okay to ask for help from family. It is okay to ask for help from family. It's okay to ask for help from people. It's not okay, but it's okay to ask for help from strangers. Like, I don't know where we got into this mindset of everybody needs to be fiercely independent or everyone needs to be fiercely independent except for this one exception. But it is wild how our brains make up these rules.
It is. It is. And I think the rules really are there, right? So I am very privileged and I have gotten help from my parents multiple times. And there are times where I've felt, I don't know if it's shame, if it's guilt. Like, I understand not everybody can have that. There's a bit of a it must be nice kind of sentiment that can come from people who wish they had that support but didn't have access to it. And I think that's what happens, right? Is there's a level of jealousy. Like, why do you get that? I didn't get that. I had to do it. I had to figure it out on my own. So you should have to figure it out on your own. And I really think that's ridiculous. I don't want people to struggle the way I struggled. I want people to not struggle. So it's great if they had help. It's not a handout. It's not, I feel so sorry for you. It's let me help you because I know it's easier when you don't have to go this alone. And so when I can, I want to help. When I receive money, I appreciate it, but I have a certain amount of, oh, I shouldn't tell people about this because they're going to think, oh, look at her getting mommy and daddy to pay for such and such a thing. And this next part is where I realized another big disconnect because of this, which is that it's okay to get money if somebody died.
Yep.
Or if you won the lottery. Both
Yep.
of those are extremely acceptable ways for you to receive money, right? Like, okay, so the lottery is gambling, and some people win, and that's great. But it's almost like gambling becomes like doing the work in this scenario. Like, oh, you did the work by gambling, and that's how you
Yeah.
received a payout. And the other part is, and this is becoming more common from my understanding, is there are a lot of people who want to see their children benefit from the money that they would inherit before the people who have the money die, right? They're like, I would like to see how this helps you. I would like to help you now when you need it, because I think that by the time I die and you get it, you're not going to need it in the same kind of way. Like, I would rather give it to you sooner. And that's just those two examples, the lottery and parents giving you money. But I do think that we get all wrapped up in what is acceptable and what isn't when it comes to receiving money. And there are so many ways that we can receive money that aren't gambling or people dying. And some of it also comes around to what we call it. So if somebody is a patron of the arts, and this goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, right? A patron of the arts means, and I'm saying this, I've not done historical research on this. This is what I think it is. But patrons of the art had a lot of money, and they funded artists to be able to do their art and still have a place to live and have food to eat. And that was how they got paid, just because somebody was like, I want there to be art in the world. Here's some money. Again, it's like these tiny little name changes make something okay versus not okay. And I think the resentment people feel, because I think that's what it is, right? They're like, don't get a handout. They're either resenting that they didn't get money that way, or they're just resenting their situation. I don't know. But if I had the money to support people who needed it in an even bigger way than I do, I would happily do that. And I don't think that the people I'm helping are like weak and terrible for needing my help. It's like, how can I help somebody's life be a little bit easier so that they can keep going?
I think this piggybacks well onto another point that I really wish middle class and upper class people understood. And that is the idea of and I'm using air quotes here, handout by the government that a lot of people on social assistance receive, whether it is because they can't find a job or they are maybe unhoused, which often leads into the same problem, or they're disabled. It's this idea that the government is funding your lifestyle. Well, as somebody who was on social assistance when it was a far better program than it is now, please allow me to tell you that what somebody makes from that social assistance check usually doesn't even cover their rent. The rents have soared so high that even if they live with one or two other people, it's often not enough to pay for their rent, pay for their share utilities, pay for their food, pay for their medication, because a lot of that isn't necessarily covered, pay for their phone, because everybody needs a phone now. I don't want to hear it. We all need a smartphone. Like it is not enough to live off of. So, as I mentioned before, we have a pay it forward program at Understory. And we finally opened that up to international donations just because people were asking over and over. And it now is sitting at a very healthy number, which is great. And there are two groups of people that we feed with that money more than anyone. Number one, a lot of unhoused community members come in as they leave the shelters or wake up on the street or whatever. They come in, they get a coffee, they get a breakfast sandwich or like a pastry or whatever, right? And they get to just breathe for a minute and just be in a safe space and they get some food. The other group of people, the second highest group of people, would be people who are on disability. And disability does not even come close to
Not
being
at
able to
all.
pay for things, not anywhere close. The idea of like, well, just go on disability is not an answer, right?
No.
To solving all your problems.
And I would say this, Ontario, where we live, is particularly bad. The amount people get on disability is so much lower than you need.
Yeah.
And then if you have a roommate, they give you less.
Yeah. And a lot of times, if you're married, you can't get married because if you get married, they'll cut you off because your partner might make too much.
Yeah.
And then to get back on disability, should anything go awry, your partner loses their job or you find yourself separated, is a nightmare to get back on. The amount of forms you have to fill out, the amount of doctors you have to get signed off on. It is so much work from what I understand from people close to me. It is not the handout that you might think it is. And I would love for people to stop looking down their nose at people who are living on disability or living on social assistance. They are surviving on those things. They are not living well.
Agreed.
There we go.
That's right.
Yeah, I've realized how cyclical this whole asking and receiving help thing is and how that's okay. I think this entire experience is teaching me that just because I asked for help before or received help before, I didn't ask for that help, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Even if I had asked for help before and received it, does not mean that I can't get help again, that I cannot ask for help if I need it again. And when I am not in a position where I need to ask for help, that is a great time for me to give help. And in fact, I have found, and my mom has always said this, my parents don't have a lot of money. They haven't had a lot of money for a very long time. And my mom has often said, some of the most generous people are poor people. And I think she's right because you know what it feels like to not have anything. And I think that experience of not having anything back when I lived in a shelter and I lived in halfway houses and I slept in stairwells a few times. And back then, I felt so vulnerable. And any little thing that I got was the biggest gift you could imagine. And now I know what it feels like to be without. So I have so much compassion for other people who are without. We have one regular who comes in who's really struggling with housing right now. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn. I'm just saying how simple this is if you see somebody who is struggling. So occasionally somebody, if I'm working alone, I don't work alone very much anymore, but will give me cash tips. And we've always told our staff if people give you cash tips, you can keep them. Just keep them. If you're the only one on, or divvy them up between you and whoever's on. What doesn't matter, right? So I was saving up a bunch of my tip money just because, people give me $2 here, $5 here, $10 here, whatever, right? And I had it just sitting in a pile. And one day I was on my way to work and I thought of him just like a week or two ago. And I just put it all in my pocket and I brought it over to him. I don't know, it was maybe $100 or something. And I gave it to him. And he does this all the time for us. So it's not like he needs money to do it. But like he got up and like, first of all, he gave me a hug because that $100 meant so much more to him than it did to me. But then he went and like washed all our windows. He washes our windows once a week. He just does because that's the thing he can do for us, right? And he's good at it. So he helped us too. Do you know how much it costs to have someone wash your windows as a small business, right? If you're not paying your staff to do it, which means you may have to have more staff on to have someone do that. So it's all cyclical, right? We're all helping each other all the time. And that's beautiful. That is the human experience.
Yeah. Do you know the comedian Robbie Hoffman?
I do not.
She grew up in poverty and talks about it a lot. And I recently was listening to a podcast where she was talking about, I think it was on the Modern Love podcast, about how if you walk into a poor person's house, you can go into their fridge and eat whatever. They're like, eat, 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 eat. And she's like, I don't understand rich people. They're like, don't touch my stuff. And these are obviously mass generalizations, but it's an interesting thing to just think about how we think about helping, what it looks like. We've been talking a lot about help today when it comes to actual financial, here is some money, but there's so many ways. And understanding all the different ways that we think about this can help us decide if we still want to think what we think, right? Like, this is that whole unboxing it. Like, have you actually spent some time on this topic, thinking about it, what you feel about it, how you want to move forward in the world when it comes to this topic, whether you're comfortable accepting help, whether you are in a position to give help? Like, all of these things are worth just spending some time thinking about. And I think being able to receive help is different than even asking for it. There's all the different parts to it. And we need to rewrite a little bit of the story we have around what all of this means.
Imagine a world where you look at somebody's crowdfunding site and they're asking for money, and you're like, "Oh, I only have so much money and I got to save some because what if something happens to me and then I don't have it?" So, operating from that scarcity mindset, right? And so you end up not giving to them. Imagine a world where giving and receiving were just so natural and we could trust that everybody, when they had some, would give some, and when they didn't have some, would be able to receive some. Imagine if you could just look at that and go, "Oh yeah, I've got $500 in the bank, so maybe, that's just savings. I can give 400 of that right now, keep 100 for emergencies, knowing that if I do hit a big emergency, I will get that money back from other people." Imagine that world and how that would change how we operate as people and as a community.
Yeah. It takes a village mentality, which I think we need more of. More and more and more of it. And so hopefully we can start getting there. Just because something is difficult for you now and you need some help with it doesn't mean that you're not going to be the one giving the help next time, doesn't mean we aren't really just able to make everybody's life a little bit easier instead of thinking only about our own situation. And that's, I think, at the core of what we were trying to get at today.
I'm so grateful for all the help that I've received and that my business has received. And I'm also very grateful to be in a position a lot of times where I can give to others. What a beautiful experience that is. I think this is something I'm going to take with me. This particular thing, just like the last time somebody went out of their way to help me so I would not fall through the cracks. This is an experience I'm going to take with me well into old age until I no longer am here, because I think that's such a beautiful act of humanity. So that's me getting all sentimental. Did I mention I turned 50 in 2 weeks? God, what is this retrospection thing I'm doing? It's wild.
I know, and I turned 50 like 3.5 weeks ago. Half a century years old we are.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna do a whole episode on that too, I think. What that all means
Yes.
when you have a big birthday like that.
And I want to say, Rowan, congratulations on a successful Pride Month and 6 months as a coffee shop owner and becoming a place that people really feel safe and like they can find community in, because you have done that, and that's amazing.
Thank you. I can't wait for you to actually be able to come and visit soon.
I know, me neither.
I feel like everybody we know together has been there so far. And I'm not saying that in a guilt way. It's just that's just how life works. But they've all kind of made their way to Toronto in one way or another and have hung out at Understory. You haven't been there yet, but I can't wait for you to come and experience it for yourself, because it is a really special place. I see that all the time. I had three different groups of people in, one individual person and two groups who came in from out of town yesterday to be a part of that experience and say hi and that sort of thing. And we have people almost every day who come and do that. And I live vicariously through them every time I see them experiencing just the energy in there and how friendly it is and how open it is and how safe it feels. And I'm grateful and amazed that we have been able to create this.
I can't wait to come and visit. And Rowan and I have thrown around the idea of maybe even doing a little unboxing it meetup at some point at Understory. So if you're in the Toronto area and you think you would like to come to something like that, let us know. That'll reinforce me leaving my house and coming all the way to Toronto because I want to come, but also I'm a bit of a homebody.
Yeah, she's a bit of a homebody. So, like, we really need to push this. If you are listening right now and you're like, I'm in the GTA, I would come hang out with you for an evening. Can you just let Laura know so that she actually comes by so I can finally make her a coffee? It's getting old now. It's been 6 months.
Yep. Well, I am excited that we're back on the podcast train, Rowan. This has been really nice to get back into having these conversations.
Yeah. And sometimes breaks are good, right? It's like, it's good. It literally breaks things up. And now we have a bunch of fresh new experiences to talk about new ideas we've thought about. And yeah, I'm stoked to see what's next. So thank you all for joining us today. If you haven't already, we would love you to do two things. Number one, subscribe to our Substack. That's where we post all of our new episodes, where we invite conversation, that sort of thing. You can also get the podcast anywhere that you would normally find a podcast. And if that's where you're getting the podcast, would you please leave us a review? We love reviews. It really helps promote the show. It really helps get more listeners. And we think that unboxing these old beliefs and challenging them and figuring out if they really work for us or not is a good thing.
Absolutely. We will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you for being here. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Unboxing It. We're so glad you did. If you like what you heard and you want to help us keep making episodes, please leave us a rating wherever you heard this one. You can also subscribe to the Unboxing It Substack to get access to all of the latest news and some special bonus content. And hey, truly, don't forget to find some moments of joy today. You deserve them. Take care out there, and we'll see you next time.